Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video on my journey through adaptive music. Today I am very excited to show off a little project I've been working on where I take a small amount of music and turn it into an hour of music. And the way that I achieve this is through randomization and small segments of music. So what I've done in my digital audio workstation, I use Reaper, is I have recorded a drone layer, an arpeggio layer, a melodic layer, and then two different percussion layers, just a kick, and then kind of a ride cymbal to add a little bit of extra kind of flair to the track. And what I've done is I have labeled a different section for a different chord. All of these sections here are all following an A minor chord. All of these little blocks here follow a C major chord, D minor, E minor, F major, G major. And what I plan to do is to have Wise, which is my middleware, it will randomly shuffle around some of these sections and randomly select one of these kind of blocks per chord. I know that may not make sense right now, but I will demonstrate what it looks like in Wise. But to give you a glimpse of what the music sounds like, here is the A minor section. So I have that as just one section within my A minor chord. Each one of these individual blocks in Wise will be able to shuffle around and get randomized, and then it will jump to another section, another chord at random. So what I've done is I have written very small chunks of music. They're only about 9 seconds long each, and I will be using them in Wise to get shuffled around and randomized so that there's always a unique combination per chord. I can kind of simulate that in Reaper if I assign a color to each one of these tracks, just kind of at random. You'll see what it looks like when they get shuffled around and how it still sounds perfectly cohesive. So right now, each of these layers all follow A minor, so they all sound like they belong together. But each one of these blocks has its own unique kind of twist on it. So each one of these drone blocks, as you can see from the lines, the MIDI data, each one is unique, but they all follow A minor. So what happens when I shuffle them around? So now they've been kind of rearranged. So they're not in the same order anymore, but they're all still part of A minor. So this is what they sound like now. And if I shuffle them again, it still sounds cohesive because they all fall under the same chord. So it's going to sound good together no matter what. So if we take that on a grand scale, if we randomize all the chunks within A minor and then jump to, let's say, one of the chunks in D minor, we're going to have a bit of a chord progression. And Wise will be able to do this at random. So it will jump from A minor to D minor to F major to C major to E minor, which is going to sound perfectly fine. It'll all be unified. So Wise will be able to jump around between these chords at random because I've written the music in such a way that it sounds good kind of no matter what within the same chord. It's going to sound like it's a brand new piece of music for an entire hour. Because if we do the math on this, if we have 6 options, 6 variations for each of the 3 layers, that already is 216 combinations that we can hear at any given time. We have 6 options here, 6 options here, and 6 options here. So we have 216 per per chord. And so we have 6 chords in total. That's almost 1,300 unique variations. And that's just these 3 layers. That hasn't even included the 12 kick variations and the 12 ride cymbal variations. All in all, so there are just countless combinations that we can hear at any given time. And lastly, I have just one final kind of end section for the very ending of the song, just so we have a way to end off the music once it's finished. So looking at this in Wise, I have my chords and layers all set up within a music playlist container, which I call the adaptive ambient music, and each chord has its own section. I decided to include a intro specific segment so that I could control which specific variation is played at the beginning of the song, so that gives us a bit of a thematic entrance. And anytime the loop repeats, it'll go back to this intro section, so it gives us a kind of structure to the song. So what we have here is a playlist which will go top to bottom, starting with our A minor intro segment. It'll move into a D minor intro segment, go to the E minor intro segment, and then back to A minor, so that gives us a kind of well-rounded chord progression. And then from there, it'll go into a random continuous, which means it will pick at random any one of these segments. So we have the A minor, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major. It'll pick them at random. I have a different weight set for each option because some chords are just going to sound better than others based on their A minor scale that we're working in. So I've put C major as a low weight. I put D minor as a high weight because I really like the way that the chords sound when we go to a D minor chord in an A minor scale. That's just my own personal preference. And then it can loop this entire sequence as many times as I want it to. So if I set this to 10, it's going to loop through all these chords 10 times at random and then go back up to the top here to repeat again. So what this looks like, if we go into our A minor segment, we have our arpeggio, which is just that piano kind of arpeggio going back and forth. All of these layers will get selected at random. So when it plays through, it'll pick 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. And it'll also select a drone layer at random, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. For the melody, I decided to include 2 blank tracks. So what this does is that means there's a slight chance that the melody just won't play, and that gives us more variety. So we're not constantly hearing that the guitar playing, but there will be a bit of a possibility that it'll be just the drums, drone, and piano arpeggio for the song or for that section. So this is what it sounds like when we go through the playlist and it's selecting those sections at random. So for the intros, I decided to specifically select one layer to play each time, so there's only one variation. It will not select something at random, but when we get into the A minor full section, it'll pick only one of these variations at random. So this is what it sounds like going through, and watch where the yellow arrow will jump around when we get into the random continuous section. And so there we hear how each section flows into one another very, very smoothly, and it sounds cohesive. It sounds as if it was intentional to go from one chord to another. And in a way it was. I wrote the music in a way that it would sound nice moving back and forth, but I'm not the one controlling what the actual chord progression is. Wise is doing that for me. The middleware is controlling the chord progression through randomization. And so this gives a ton of variety and possibilities for background music in video games. If your composer has written all these variations for different layers, Wise can use this randomization option to allow for an infinite possibilities of how these layers are combined. So I can take maybe a few minutes of recorded music and turn it into a full hour of non-repetitive background music. I actually took this, I recorded about an hour of playback, and I have uploaded it to my channel as an hour of ambient exploration music for you to listen to. You'll be able to hear how it's seamlessly going from chord to chord, providing fresh takes on these themes, these variations, these layers, and it's just perfect for background music for video games. So I really hope you enjoyed this, and if you want to check out the hour-long version of this track, I'll have it linked in the description below. And if you like it, please consider subscribing and sharing it with someone who might be interested in this background music and how Wise and middleware can make your video games more immersive and keep the music interesting for your players who may be in a specific area. You know, for an hour at a time, they want to hear fresh music the whole way through. So thanks again for watching, and hope you have a great day.